Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a landmark case that starts with a collector's Jeep and a really tragic accident. But it ends up asking this fundamental question. In a democracy, can you actually hold the government accountable when it harms you?
I mean, the answer seems pretty obvious, right? Of course you should be able to. But for a long time, it just wasn't that simple. So let's unpack this through a story that forced India's highest court to decide where the state's power ends and where its responsibility to you, the citizen, begins.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's February 1952. A government driver is bringing a Jeep back from a workshop. He drives recklessly, hits a man named Jagdish Lal, who then tragically dies a few days later. The facts of the case were pretty straightforward, but when his widow, Vidyawati, sued for justice, she slammed right into a legal wall that was centuries old.
So why was this such a fight? To really get it, we have to look at this powerful, really ancient defense the state used to protect itself. And it's a concept that honestly feels like it belongs in an era of kings and castles, not a modern republic.
It's this idea called sovereign immunity. It was inherited from British law, and it's all based on this ancient principle that the king can do no wrong. What that basically meant was that the government, the ruling power, was considered above the law. It couldn't be held responsible for what its employees did. And this is the exact card the state of Rajasthan played. They claimed that because the Jeep belonged to a government collector and was used for his official duties, well then, maintaining it was a sovereign function. For Vidyawati, this wasn't some abstract legal theory. This meant the state was literally claiming it had zero responsibility for her husband's death.
So, how did this all play out in court? Well, Vidyawati did not back down. She took her fight for accountability all the way through the Indian justice system, and that set the stage for a huge legal showdown.
And man, was she on a legal roller coaster. Just look at this. The first court actually sided with the state. It agreed. Yep, this was a sovereign function. But then, the High Court completely flipped that decision, ruling that no, the state was liable because this was just an ordinary task. This disagreement set up a final winner-take-all showdown in the Supreme Court.
So it all boiled down to this pretty simple question. Was driving a Jeep part of the unique, untouchable duties of governing, like commanding an army or passing laws? Or was it just a normal, everyday task that any person or company might do? The answer to this was going to change everything.
So, finally, in 1962, a full decade after Jagdish Lal's death, can you imagine? The Supreme Court delivered its judgment, and it was a ruling that would completely redefine the relationship between the citizen and the modern state.
And this quote right here just perfectly captures what the court decided. They sliced right through the state's argument, saying that the negligence happened in a situation that was wholly dissociated from any real act of governing.
The court's logic here was so clear and forward-thinking. They basically argued that in a modern republic, a welfare state, a government that's supposed to look out for its citizens, can't just hide behind these outdated royal privileges. Driving a car from a repair shop, that's a normal, non-sovereign thing to do. If a private company's driver did this, the company would absolutely be liable. So the court asked, why should the government be any different?
And just like that, the verdict came down. The Supreme Court said the state's appeal was dismissed. Ms. Vidyawati had won. I mean, this was a monumental victory. It established this powerful idea that the government has to be accountable for the everyday actions of its people. But just when the law seemed crystal clear, just when the path toward accountability was finally paved, the story takes this really unexpected and frankly confusing turn.
It's almost hard to believe, but only 2 years after this landmark decision, the very same Supreme Court got another case. And this time, their decision would put the idea of sovereign immunity right back on the table. And it completely muddied the waters they had just cleared. So, in a 1965 case called Kasturi Lal, the court ruled in the complete opposite direction. Here, police had negligently lost some gold they had seized from a citizen. The court decided that policing, unlike driving a Jeep, was a core sovereign function, something only the state can do. And because of that, the state was immune. You see the problem? This created a direct and really confusing conflict in the law. So the big takeaway here is that while the Vidyawati case was this huge leap forward for citizens' rights, the Kasturi Lal decision immediately threw a wrench in the works. For decades, courts and lawyers had to wrestle with these two opposing rulings, just trying to figure out where on earth the line was supposed to be drawn. And that leaves us with the central question that Vidyawati's long, hard fight forced out into the open. In a nation of laws, when should the state be treated like any other employer? And when should it be considered above the law? Her story is a powerful reminder that this isn't just some dusty legal debate. It's a human one, with profound consequences for every single citizen who seeks justice.